that I was on Putin's kill list. Just I can't breathe.
Hello, I'm Stash features editor of Kyiv Post, and today we have two wonderful guests who have come to Kyiv for the YES Summit, the Yalta European Security Summit, where dignitaries from all over the world come to Ukraine to talk about geopolitics and specifically in this case, what can be done in Ukraine to help Ukraine, which is in the middle of the war right now. Here I have Mitzi Perdue, who is a philanthropist, a businesswoman, a writer, a journalist, many things, and Clara Kaluderovic, who is a businesswoman, owns two companies, and they've both come to Kyiv to talk about mental help, which is, I assume, a way to help people who are suffering from the war. So Mitzi, how did you get started with this?
I got started in this because in 2022, July of 2022, I had written a story for Psychology Today, a big magazine in the US, about how the human trafficking cartels are just drawn to conflict areas, and they were just converging on the borders of Ukraine.
When the war just began?
Yes. So I'd written this story about it, and a couple of days after it came out, from my point of view, a wonderful coincidence happened. Your chief of police, General Andriy Nebitov,
of Kyiv, the
Kyiv Region Police, he had read my story because he had written his master's thesis on human trafficking. So my story had the word Ukraine in it and the word human trafficking. It ended up in his desk. He liked it, bless him. And I'm sitting in my office in New Hampshire at that moment in the States, and I get this invitation to a Zoom with General Nebitov saying, if you'll come, you can be the guest of the Kyiv Region Police for 6 days, and you can see for yourself what you've been writing about. As a journalist, I mean, what could be better? 10 days later, I'm in Kyiv, but my life completely changed because of some of the interviews that I did. It's the police who document war crimes. And over again, I would get to interview victims of war crimes, and my hatred for the orcs, for the Russians, exploded. But the life-changing interview for me was with a 14-year-old girl. Her name is Daria. And she described what it was like when she's in a car in Bucha with her mother and her stepmother and father, and a random Russian, for no reason, takes out his machine gun and sprays the car and kills her parents. And what could be more traumatic for a 14-year-old?
Oh, that's terrible. And Bucha, for those who don't know, is the place where there were war crimes committed, massacre committed, and it's a suburb just outside of Kyiv. A fairly well-off suburb, too.
Okay, but why this story was life-changing for me was, I write for Psychology Today, so I have a little bit of psychology background. I'm listening to this 14-year-old girl discussing the most horrendous thing that could happen to a young girl, but she's describing it in a complete monotone with just no inflection, and she's describing it as if it happened to somebody else. Well, those are signs of disassociation. And a person who's suffering from disassociation really needs counseling, because if you don't, the future is likely to be self-medication with drugs, alcohol. I mean, your future is not good without counseling.
Yeah.
So at the end of the interview, Daria has left the interview room, and the policewoman who's accompanying me and translating for me, I ask her a naive question. I say, is Daria going to get counseling? And Irina, I'm going to pronounce her name wrong, but let's just go with Irina.
Irina. Yeah.
Irina answered my question. My question is Daria going to get counseling? And the answer was, there are millions of Ukrainians with trauma equally grave. There's no possibility in a war-torn country of there being enough counselors to help someone like her. She's on her own. And I'm thinking, a 14-year-old girl, orphaned, having seen this trauma, and I can understand that if you've got millions, and the World Health Organization now says that there are 15 million Ukrainians who have mental health issues like insomnia, depression, panic attacks. Is there some way that these people could get help? We're not going to make their problems go away, but is there some way that we could make it just a little bit less? Well, I'd written my master's thesis decades ago on computers, so I've followed computers and information technology as hard as I can, and it occurred to me that with large language models and artificial intelligence, maybe we could give advice to somebody, very personalized advice from experts using artificial intelligence to give advice. And then maybe it would come out on YouTube channels, and people with panic attacks could tune in and listen to advice. But then it grew beyond that. What if with artificial intelligence you can type in, I'm having panic attacks, what should I do? And 24/7, around the clock, free, people could get advice that would really, really help.
Yeah.
And I would like at this point to invite Clara to talk about how you make this happen.
Well, this is where Clara comes in. You are involved with companies that do artificial intelligence. Tell us about it.
So my company is on the private side. We build data centers. We have an innovative approach to do it that uses less water and doesn't stress electrical grids. As most people don't know, most of the energy consumption increases happen because of big data and AI and language modeling, which we all want to use now. And we've found ways to reduce water and sustainably build both software and hardware to be able to power this stuff. And so we're able to run things at a very good cost, and we've developed a lot of language models. When I heard Mitzi's story about Daria, and I read a little bit about her background with what she's done for Ukraine, which is just spectacular. Coming from half Ukrainian is my background. My mom is from Kyiv. I learned about Mitzi and was just floored. And so I offered to build the language model for my company, and we would make this a nonprofit to help ease a little bit of the burden in Ukraine with mental health. And we've been able to rally incredible support around it. We're going to be housing it at the American University of Kyiv, which has been really the backbone for the operation. Dan Rice, who's leading them, is supportive, and the faculty there is going to be helping us build this out and providing a lot of expertise to actually build this. So it's a huge collaborative effort. We're trying to bring in as many technical partners from the U.S., NGOs working on ground here like TAPS. We have an incredible third kind of silent co-founder of this, General David Petraeus, who is another incredible supporter of Ukraine. And a lot of this has been facilitated by him with the work he's done for the American University of Kyiv and globally. Yesterday, we were all fortunate enough to go to the school, tour the space. It's a beautiful, beautiful building right on the water, this old shipping building. And we're very excited. It's been incredible, and it's been several years since I've been in Kyiv. Very, very energizing. It was right before the war started. My grandmother had passed away a few weeks beforehand. And
was she in Kyiv at the time?
She was in Kyiv. She's phenomenal. She's kind of similar to Mitzi, was a force of life. She actually participated in the Maidan Revolution. She would bring food and provide medical services. And we weren't able to go to her funeral because the war started.
Yeah, and Kyiv was in lockdown at that time.
It was on lockdown, so most of my family is in the States, and we watched from afar. I mean, horrified. And since then, the hardest part has been maintaining conversations with him. And his new reality of losing her right beforehand, the family can't come, and then dealing with the new normal from the war. And he was someone very tough, very strong, and now he's been having issues. He's been isolated. So even someone who is older, we're feeling globally, I think, that the repercussions of that.
Well, the whole society, has been dealing with trauma. And I'm glad you mentioned Petraeus, who's a real supporter. How could other supporters contact help with mental help? Do you have a website? Do you have?
We do. It's MentalHelp.Global. People can contribute on there. We're looking for partnerships. I mean, this is something very collaborative. The three of us saw this need and this problem that we can solve. So we would love to build this with as many partners as possible, and give it to groups that can help us run it and expand it further. We're hoping to work with the Ministry of Health here. Mitzi and I were very inspired by a speech from the First Lady of Ukraine,
Olena Zelenska.
And what she said was, yes, when we win the war, the second part of that is going to be to for the future of Ukraine to win the next 10 years. And how are we going to cope with all the effects that we're having now? And so as big supporters as, of course, David Petraeus is to the military and Mitzi has been with the police and the actual defense, the next thing we were concerned about is what happens when the war is won.
Yeah. Well, that's that's sort of the aspect that a lot of people don't see. They see the war going on, they see the military, but there's the home front here in Kyiv that we definitely need to deal with. Now, Mitzi, I know you have an interesting story about how you your first trips to Kyiv.
Because after my first trip to Ukraine, this is my fourth trip, actually my fourth trip since the war, I spent my 21st birthday in Kyiv. So this is my fifth trip to Ukraine. Okay. But after my first trip, I became so aware of, and actually not just aware, but loving the police, because I feel that they're undersung heroes.
Yeah.
We all love the military, but the police do so much to keep society together also. Are you aware, you may be, but I learned it for the first time, that when Russia invades a country, and I think there have been 9 since the Soviet Union fell, 9 countries invaded, the first thing they do, their playbook is, they bomb the police stations, they kill the police, they destroy the vehicles.
Yeah.
Because it's a double blow for the country they're invading, because you're invaded from the outside, but then the criminals, they just come where there's conflict.
Yeah.
And so the police play a bigger role than ever. I was aware of, for example, the police in Chernobyl, all their police cars were destroyed.
Yeah.
On top of that, again, we're talking Kyiv region, their patrol boats were all gone. And I wanted to help.
Kyiv is on a very wide river, the Dnipro. So the police need patrol boats.
Yes, because so much criminal activity happens, smuggling, human trafficking, it's just essential. And they didn't have the ability to perform their police functions.
Yeah.
So I get home and I started thinking, I really want to do something. Well, my beloved late husband, Frank Perdue, was the most philanthropic person I ever knew. He had given me as an engagement ring, not this, he had given me an Atocha emerald. Atocha is a treasure ship that sank in 1622, so very historic.
So they took it out of a Spanish galleon in the sea. Okay.
Well, actually, no, he had been one of the financial backers of finding it.
Oh, okay.
So one of his rewards was this Atocha emerald. Yeah. It's one of the larger perfect emeralds in existence. Yeah. And what an engagement present to have.
Absolutely.
If you want to impress a woman, I recommend give her that.
Okay.
But seriously.
I'll go shopping for one as soon as we get out of here.
Well, find out whoever bought it, because I put it up for auction. It sold for $1.2 million, and
wow.
It's all dedicated to the Ukrainian police. And we bought the 5 boats and replaced the 19 cars. So I felt really good about that.
Yeah. And you had some problems on your way out.
Well, there's that. Actually, it's a problem that, in retrospect, I'm so proud of.
I would
Well, no,
Tell us.
I'm eager to share my story.
Please.
I had been warned the third time I came back, which was July of a year ago.
July, 2023.
Yes. I was warned by a number of very knowledgeable people in the United States, people with CIA connections, police connections. They informed me that now I don't know firsthand this is true, but I can swear that there are people who told me this, that I was on Putin's kill list, and that I shouldn't go back. But my calculation was, I'm not that important. He may have a kill list or a murder list, but there are probably 500,000 people on it, and I'm way down on that list. So I thought, listen to them. I came back. And absolutely, every time I'm here, I'm more in love with Ukraine. Well, I'm here for my 6 days. Nothing happens. Life is good. I get on the train to Warsaw. I check in at the Warsaw Marriott, the airport Marriott, and I'm heading, I have my keys, I'm heading towards the elevator, and I see two people who my Spider-Man sense says, don't get on the elevator with them. And it would be really hard for me to explain this feeling, but it was so strong that I acted on it. I looked at my watch and pretended I'd forgotten something and walked away and did not get on the elevator. I come back half an hour later, they're gone, good. I get on the elevator. And then on the second floor, that couple gets on. And what I'm about to describe, I don't remember, but it's happened to almost 100 other journalists. The journalists used to be a protected class. Now we're a target. And there's a group called Bellingcat that says, I don't have really current figures, but as of a few months ago, that 100 journalists have been neutralized by Mr. Putin.
Oh, absolutely.
That's shocking to me, except that I was almost one. What they do is there'll be a pair, and one will bump into you really suddenly, and the other will inject you. Actually, in my case, it was here. And I get to my room, and I suddenly have the worst trouble breathing you can imagine.
Oh.
Just I can't breathe, and it was as if a python was constricting my lungs. Each breath shallower than the one before. And I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, and I know that I should roll over to the other side of the bed and pick up the house phone and say, help, I can't breathe. I couldn't do it. I literally was unable to, and I wouldn't have been able to speak anyway. But for huge good fortune from my point of view, I had my iPad with me, and I typed to Polish friend, help, can't breathe, room 407, Airport Marriott. And again, what I'm about to describe, I learned later, but my Polish friend called the front desk. The front desk, again, good luck. I've been told my chances of surviving this were minuscule because so many things had to go right for me to be here. The front desk clerk looked out the window of the Airport Marriott, and the airport ambulance was in the driveway at that point. Well, he went running out to the ambulance and said, woman in 407 can't breathe. They came up to my room. Somebody from the hotel let them in. And usually when two strangers come into the room, they, are you Mrs. Perdue? How are you? No, nothing like that. They just leapt across the room and put an oxygen mask on my face, which made no difference because I couldn't even breathe in. And then they injected me with, I think they thought I had anaphylactic shock.
Okay.
No effect, and I'm just really going down fast. They gave me another, and then, at this point, almost the whole room is black, but I can see faces, and I'm a trained journalist, so I'm looking at the faces, and I know, now I know, even more than the fact that I can't breathe, I can see how seriously they're taking this.
Yeah.
They borrowed in their bag, and they got, I believe it's atropine, which is an antidote for Novichok.
Novichok's what they use to kill the spies. Yeah, Navalny. They used it on Navalny.
Yeah. Well, it worked. The antidote worked very fast, and I can't tell you how fast because time was just a blur. But here's how it felt subjectively. as if a minute and a half went by and I could take a deep breath.
Oh, did your life pass before your eyes?
No, because I was, okay, this is my journalistic training. I'm paying attention to dying. And no, I didn't have my life pass before my, but the antidote worked. I was too sick to travel for probably 5 days. I was sleeping 19 hours a day. I got back, x-rayed shows that one part of one lung wasn't working.
Oh.
I had our heart issues for 2 months. And Novacek, I'll describe what happened and I can't give you reasons, but my gums were absolutely bright red. And a dentist said, you're going to lose all your teeth because the inflammation is so severe. Well, fortunately, the inflammation went down. The heart issues stopped. I'm fine now, and I'm back in Ukraine.
What a story. What a story. It just goes to show. I mean, and so did they ever find the 2 people who jabbed you, or no?
Well, actually,
Are there any
out of
leads?
school, even though I know we're in school. I tried to communicate with like people from the hotel, from just a variety of people, and nobody would answer. And I have a guess on that. Oh, I'm going to make enemies.
Okay. Well, I think we can read between the lines.
Well, no, I will tell you because I'm indiscreet, and this is the kind of guest you have. No, I could imagine that and all my inquiries were not answered. I could imagine that they wouldn't want to have in writing some response.
Yeah.
I don't know that's true.
Yeah, it's not a good look to have Putin's assassins, running around your hotel. That's for sure.
Well, as I said, this is probably not going to make me friends, but oh well. It's what happened. Or the famous line, that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Okay. Well, that's an incredible story. And it's been a pleasure to have you here. Remember, Mental Help. We're here in Kyiv. The entire country is suffering stoically. You don't see it. People are going about their daily business. It seems like a normal city, but it's in the middle of a very brutal war imposed on it from outside. And the people definitely need help. Lots of people need help. Thank you, Clara. Thank you, Mitzi.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.